She stood there again, at the edge, silent, watching others laugh and play. The alien girl never joined them. No one called her name. No one even looked her way. To them, she was just a shadow, something better ignored. But on that day, something changed. A human noticed her. His eyes didn't turn away like the others. He didn't laugh at her silence or walk past her like she didn't exist. And in that single moment, her lonely world shook. For the first time, she wondered, could someone really see her? She stood quietly near the far edge of the field, her eyes fixed on the others. They were laughing, running, and playing, their voices full of energy. Every shout, every burst of laughter echoed across the open space. She wanted to join, but she did not move. She only watched, like she always did. The alien girl had grown used to this place of silence. When the others looked at her, it was never with warmth. Sometimes they glanced for a second, then turned away quickly as if her presence did not matter. She learned to stay apart, to stand where the shadows were, to let the noise of joy wash over her without ever touching her. Her hands were clasped together, tight, as if holding on to something invisible. She felt the ache of loneliness deep inside, but she had no words to show it. To them, she was the quiet one, the strange one, the girl who did not belong. Every day it was the same. She stood still, listening to their laughter like it was music from a world she could not enter. She tried to smile sometimes, but the smile never stayed. The others never noticed. On this day, however, something different happened. She was watching again, her eyes following a group running across the grass. They moved in circles, chasing one another, their voices rising in cheerful calls. Then her gaze shifted, and she froze. There was someone new, a human. He was sitting not too far away, watching the same scene. His eyes did not follow the playful crowd for long. Instead, they turned slowly toward her. The girl's heart skipped. She had been seen before, but never like this. His gaze did not pass over her as if she were part of the background. It stayed. It stayed long enough for her to feel her breath catch. She looked away quickly, afraid to meet his eyes again. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe he would laugh too. She told herself not to hope, not to imagine that anyone could be different. But curiosity was stronger. Slowly, she looked back. The human was still watching. His face was calm, his eyes steady. There was no mockery, no sign of dismissal. Instead, there was something else, something she had never seen directed at her. It was kindness. The girl's throat tightened. She wanted to turn and leave, but her feet would not move. She wanted to speak, but no words came. The human did not move closer. He only stayed where he was, his gaze steady, his presence quiet. Then, slowly, almost gently, he smiled. Her chest felt strange, as if a warmth had touched it. She had seen smiles before, but never for her. This one was real. It was not the laughter of a group, not a smile shared among friends. It was for her. She blinked quickly, her eyes wide, unsure what to do. No one had ever given her that before. The voices of the others faded in her ears. She could still see them playing, still see their joy, but it no longer filled all of her vision. The field, the laughter, the running shapes, they blurred, and only the human remained clear. He did not call out to her. He did not demand she come closer. He only stayed there, his eyes soft, as if telling her silently that she was not invisible. The girl shifted her weight, nervous. Part of her wanted to run, to escape this strange new feeling, but another part wanted to stay, to hold on to this moment. For once, she was not alone. Her hands loosened slightly, no longer clutched so tight. She lowered her gaze to the ground, then raised it again quickly, almost afraid he would be gone. But he was still there, still watching, still smiling in that calm, steady way. She felt something in her chest that she could not name. It was not the emptiness she usually carried. It was something lighter, something unfamiliar. Hope. The girl did not move closer. She did not speak, but she did not leave either. For the first time, she stayed because she wanted to. The human turned his eyes back toward the crowd for a moment, then back to her. It was as if he was saying, "I see you." Her breath trembled. No one had ever said those words to her, not with voices, not with eyes. The sun began to sink slowly, painting the field with golden light. The others kept playing. Unaware of the quiet change that had just begun, she stood there, the alien girl, who had always been left out. But now, for the first time, something was different, and though she did not smile yet, the feeling of it pressed at her lips. Waiting, asterisk the next day came quietly, and the field was alive again with voices and laughter. The alien girl stood where she always did, at the edge, her place of silence. But today, it felt different. She remembered the human's eyes from yesterday, the way he had looked at her without turning away. The memory was still in her chest, warm and confusing. She told herself it was nothing. Maybe he had only looked by chance. Maybe his smile had meant nothing. Still, she could not stop thinking about it. When she lifted her gaze, her heart skipped. Again, he was there, the same human, sitting in the same place as before. His presence was steady, like he had come not for the crowd but for something else. Her throat felt tight. She lowered her eyes quickly, hoping he would not notice her. But when she looked up again, he was watching, not in a heavy way, not in a sharp way, simply watching, as if to say, "I remember you." This time, he did not stay far. Slowly, carefully, he stood and walked a little closer. Not too close, just enough for her to see him clearly. Her heart beat fast, her body tense. She did not know whether to run or stay. The human stopped a few steps away and sat down on the grass. He didn't speak at once. He didn't demand anything. He just stayed there, calm, his presence quiet and gentle. The girl blinked, her hands trembling slightly. She wanted to ask why he was here, but no sound came out. She waited. Then he spoke. His voice was soft, carrying no pressure. He said something simple, something ordinary about the sky, about how the clouds looked like ships drifting across an endless ocean. She froze, surprised. She had expected questions, maybe laughter, maybe words that would push her back into silence. But instead, he spoke like they were already friends, as if talking to her was the most natural thing. Her lips parted, but she did not answer. She only listened. The human kept speaking. He talked about the breeze, about the sound of the grass moving under the wind, about the way the others were running so fast they almost looked like they could take off. His words painted pictures, and even though she stayed silent, she felt herself pulled into those pictures. Minutes passed. Still, she did not reply. But something in her eyes had changed. The stillness she always carried was now touched with something else, curiosity. The human looked at her gently, never forcing her to speak. He only smiled again, the same kind of smile she remembered from yesterday. A smile without mockery, without judgment. A smile that told her she was not invisible. Her throat tightened. She wanted to test it, to see if she could say something, even something small. But the words stuck, heavy and uncertain. He did not seem upset. Instead, he leaned back on his hands and turned his gaze upward, pointing at a cloud shaped like a circle. He laughed softly, saying it looked like a giant ring in the sky. Without thinking, the girl let out a sound. It was quiet, almost too soft to notice, but it was the first word she had spoken to him. She whispered, "Yes." The human turned to her, his eyes bright, but he did not make it a big moment. He only nodded, as if her single word meant more than an entire speech. Her cheeks felt warm, her chest lighter. She had spoken, and he had listened. The others were still laughing and running, but she no longer cared about them. For the first time, her attention was on something else, someone else. The human began to tell her a small story. He spoke about a time when he had tried to run across a muddy field and had slipped so badly that he had looked like a flying bird for a moment before landing flat on the ground. He chuckled softly, his voice carrying no shame, only humor. The girl's lips trembled. The story was simple, but the way he told it made her chest feel lighter. For a moment, she forgot the weight of being left out. She forgot the silence she always carried. She looked at him, and without planning it, she whispered a second word. Funny. Her own voice surprised her. It was thin, soft, but real. She quickly lowered her eyes, afraid he might laugh at her for trying, but he did not laugh. Instead, he grinned wider, as if her single word was the most important gift he had received. Her heart beat faster, not from fear, but from something new, something bright. They stayed there, not speaking much more, but the silence between them was different. It was not the heavy silence of loneliness. It was the quiet space of comfort. When the sun dipped lower, the human finally stood. He did not say goodbye in a loud way. He only gave her one last gentle look, as if telling her silently that he would return. She watched him leave, her chest still warm, her hands no longer clenched tight. For the first time, she felt the shape of something she had never known before. It was not just hope, it was the beginning of trust, and though she did not smile fully yet, her lips curved ever so slightly, as if a smile was waiting, ready to grow. The next days passed in quiet rhythm. The alien girl found herself waiting at the edge of the field, not just to watch the others play, but to see if the human would return. A part of her told her not to hope, not to expect anything, but the thought of him lingered in her mind, his gentle smile, his soft voice, the way he did not look through her like everyone else. These memories stayed with her, giving her a feeling she had never carried before. When she saw him again, her chest tightened, but this time she did not look away so quickly. He noticed her, and as if it were the most natural thing, he walked toward the same spot near her. He sat down once more, not too close, not too far, just enough to share the space. The others were loud again, their laughter filling the field, but she no longer heard them as sharply as before. Her attention was on the human. He greeted her with a smile, and though her lips barely moved, she whispered a faint hello. His eyes brightened at that. He didn't rush, didn't press her to say more. Instead, he began speaking in his calm way, telling small stories about ordinary things. He spoke about the taste of fruit he had tried earlier that morning, about a bird that had landed near him and stolen crumbs from his hand, about how the breeze felt colder than yesterday. The girl listened, her eyes softening. At first, she nodded now and then, still quiet. But then something happened that surprised even her. He told a story about trying to carry a heavy bag that suddenly split open, spilling everything onto the ground. He described how the fruit rolled away in all directions, and how he had chased one apple halfway across a hill before catching it. She let out a sound. It was small, but it was laughter, real laughter. She covered her mouth quickly, shocked at herself. She hadn't laughed in a long time, not in front of anyone. The human didn't mock her. He laughed too, a gentle laugh that matched hers. He looked at her as though her laugh was the most important sound he had heard that day. Her chest felt light, almost strange. She lowered her hands slowly, realizing that maybe it was safe to laugh again. As the minutes passed, she began to speak. More, not much, only short words at first. Yes, no, funny. But each time, he listened as though every word she gave was a gift. He never interrupted, never hurried her. Finally, she whispered something longer. I like the sky today. The human followed her gaze upward. The clouds were stretched in soft lines, touched with sunlight. He smiled. I like it too. It looks endless, like it can hold every dream we don't say out loud. Her eyes widened at his words. She had never thought of the sky that way, but somehow his voice made her believe it. For the first time, she wanted to share something of her own, something small but real. She pointed carefully toward the far trees. I go there sometimes, when it is too loud. The human turned to look where she pointed. His expression did not show judgment or surprise. Instead, it showed respect. He nodded slowly, as if her secret was safe with him. That sounds like a good place, he said softly. Her throat tightened. No one had ever cared to hear about the places she kept hidden. Yet here he was, listening like it mattered. They sat together for a long time, the noise of the crowd fading into the background. For once, she didn't feel the heavy wall between her and the rest of the world. For once, she felt as though she was not watching from the outside, but part of something real. As the sun dipped lower, painting the sky with orange light, she glanced at him. Her lips curved into a small smile. It wasn't wide, it wasn't bold, but it was real. The human smiled back, his eyes warm, as if to tell her without words that she was no longer invisible. When they parted that evening, she walked away with a new feeling inside her chest, It was small, like a spark, but she felt it glowing brighter with every step. For the first time, she believed that maybe, just maybe, her story could change. The next day, the air around the field carried more than laughter. Whispers moved among the group, soft at first, but sharp enough for the alien girl to notice. She had grown used to being ignored, to standing alone without a voice. But now, the silence around her was different. It was no longer invisible silence. It was the silence of eyes turning, of people noticing what they had never cared about before. The human had returned, just as she hoped he would. He sat near her again, smiling with that same quiet warmth. She felt her chest grow lighter when he did. But the others were watching now. They looked at her differently, and their glances stretched longer than before. Her fingers curled together. Nervously, she wondered if he saw what she saw. She wondered if he would stand and leave to join the louder circle, the easier company. Yet he did not move. Instead, he spoke to her softly, just as before, as though no one else was there. At first, she tried to answer him, whispering a few words, but each time her voice rose, she felt the weight of the stairs pressing down. The whispers grew louder, though she could not hear the exact words. She only felt the chill they carried. Her eyes lowered to the ground. Her chest began to tighten. Again, the familiar ache of being left out returning. Stronger this time, because it threatened to take away the small light she had found. But then, she heard his voice. The human had paused, his words shifting, his tone calm yet clear. He was speaking not only to her now but also for her. He said simple things, kind things about how beautiful the sky looked today, about how peaceful it felt to sit quietly. Instead of always rushing, his words carried across the field, and though they were not loud, they had weight. The others turned their attention back to their play, pretending not to care. But she knew they had heard him. More than that, she knew he had chosen not to step away from her, not to let the whispers erase her. Her chest filled with something she did not understand at first. It was not fear. It was not sadness. It was a strength she had never known, a warmth that spread from the place his words had reached. She lifted her head slowly. Her eyes met his, and for the first time, she did not look away quickly. She let the silence between them stretch, and in that silence, she saw the truth. He had chosen her side, not with arguments, not with loudness, but simply by staying, by refusing to let her vanish back into the shadows. Her lips trembled, but she whispered something soft, just for him. "Thank you." He smiled, the kind of smile that carried no demand, only reassurance. "You don't have to thank me," he said gently. "I see you. That's enough." Her eyes widened at his words. No one had ever spoken to her like that before. No one had ever told her she was enough. The day went on, the sun moving slowly across the sky. The others kept their distance, glancing now and then, but not daring to come closer. The human and the alien girl stayed in their quiet place, speaking softly about the little things around them, the sound of the wind, the shape of the leaves, the patterns on the ground. Each word, each glance, felt like a step forward. For her, every step was a mountain, but with him, the climb no longer felt impossible. As the light began to fade, she thought of the years she had spent alone, invisible. She thought of how many times she had wished for even a single moment, where someone would stay beside her. And now, here he was, someone who saw her not as a shadow but as a person. When she rose to leave, her steps were lighter than before. The world around her had not changed completely. The whispers might still return. The stairs might still follow. But inside her, something had shifted forever. She looked back once more. The human was still there, watching her go, his smile calm and steady. For the first time in her life, she did not feel small when walking away. She felt noticed. She felt seen. And deep inside, she carried the quiet knowledge that someone had chosen to stand with her, not loudly, not with force, but with something far stronger, kindness. The human walked beside her that day, their steps slow, almost hesitant, as if neither wanted the moment to end. The alien girl kept her head low, but every few seconds she glanced at him, and each glance carried something unspoken. For so long, she had been invisible, and now she struggled to understand why someone would choose to walk with her. When the whole world had turned its back, He asked her small questions, simple ones, about the stars in her sky, the songs her people sang, the foods she liked. At first, her answers were short, almost guarded. But then, slowly, her words grew. Her voice, once unsure, began to carry a quiet rhythm, and with each reply, she felt lighter. It was as if someone had opened a door inside her that had been locked for years. When she spoke about her past, about the times she was pushed aside, her voice trembled. She expected him to pity her, or worse, to laugh like the others had done. But instead, he only listened. His silence was not empty, it was filled with care, with patience, with the weight of someone who truly wanted to hear her story. She realized that being heard was a gift she had never been given before. Later, as they reached a quiet place under the pale glow of alien lights, he stopped and looked at her. "You deserve to smile," he said softly. The words startled her. No one had ever told her that before. No one had ever thought she deserved such a thing. For a long moment, she could not reply. But deep inside, something stirred. A warmth spread through her chest, fragile but undeniable. She found herself remembering the games she used to watch from a distance, the laughter she had never joined, and now, standing beside him, she wondered what it would feel like to step forward instead of standing apart. She glanced at him, her lips trembling with an almost smile, and whispered, "Do you really see me?" His answer came not in grand promises, but in the calm honesty of his voice. "I see you more than they ever did." In that quiet night, the alien girl felt a shift in her world. It was not loud or sudden, but it was powerful. For the first time in her life, she did not feel like a shadow. She felt real. She felt seen. And though the path ahead was uncertain, she knew that with him beside her, she would no longer walk it alone. The days that followed began to change her in ways she never thought possible. The alien girl, once quiet and hidden, now carried a small spark in her eyes. She still walked carefully, still hesitated before speaking, but there was a difference. She no longer looked only at the ground. Sometimes she lifted her gaze, and when she did, the human was there to meet it with a smile that reminded her she wasn't invisible anymore. The others noticed too. They had grown used to seeing her on the edges, forgotten, silent. But now, when they saw her standing beside him, their whispers slowed. They didn't understand what had happened, how someone who was always overlooked could suddenly seem brighter. She felt their stares, but for once it didn't hurt as much, because now she knew she was not alone. One evening, as the stars began to appear, the human brought her to a place. She had never dared to go the open circle where the others gathered. To sing, her steps were hesitant, her chest tight, but his steady presence guided her forward. She expected the same silence, the same cold rejection she had always felt. Instead, he gave her a gentle nod, as if to say, "You belong here." At first, her voice barely rose above a whisper, but when she glanced at him and saw his quiet encouragement, she let it rise a little more. And in that fragile song, something remarkable happened. The circle paused, listening. The same people who once overlooked her now turned their heads, surprised by the voice they had never heard. Her heart raced, but she didn't stop. For the first time, she wasn't singing to be accepted. She was singing because she had been seen. And that was enough. When the song ended, the silence that followed was different. It was not the silence of being ignored, but of awe, of recognition. And when the human gently clapped his hands, others slowly joined. The sound was uneven, unsure, but it was real. That night, as they walked away together, she felt something shift deep inside her. The loneliness that had once weighed her down no longer defined her. She was still the same girl, but now she carried a truth she had never known before. She mattered. And as the stars shone above them, she looked at him with a smile that was no longer hesitant, but full, warm, and alive. For the first time in her life, she was not left out. She was seen, she was heard, and most of all, she was no longer alone.